Welcome to Crime Scene X. In today's video, we are going to be covering 3 terrifying college horror stories. College was supposed to be the time of my life, an escape from the mundaneness of my small-town upbringing, and a dive into a world of knowledge and freedom. But it was during those seemingly idyllic years that I found myself entangled in a web of horrifying events that continue to haunt me. At the heart of it all was my roommate, Emily. We had clicked instantly during our freshman year, our personalities complementing each other like 2 pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Emily was vivacious, outgoing, and impulsive, the yin to my quiet, introverted, and careful yang. One chilly Friday evening in November, Emily was supposed to meet me at the college library for a study session. I'd grown accustomed to her usual tardiness, but this time, the clock moved from minutes to hours, and there was no sign of Emily. I tried calling her several times, but each call went straight to voicemail. Finally, accepting that she wasn't going to show, I trudged back to our dorm room. The room was dark, silent. Emily's bed was neatly made, her desk untouched. This was unusual. Emily was known for her messiness, a constant whirlwind of activity. A cold knot of worry started to form in my stomach. The next morning, Emily was still missing. I reported her absence to the college administration, who in turn contacted the local police. The campus was soon abuzz with worry and whispered rumors. Searches were conducted, questions asked, but Emily had seemingly vanished into thin air. The following days were a blur of fear and uncertainty. Emily's parents arrived on campus, their faces etched with a pain that no parent should bear. Despite the rigorous searches and investigations, no trace of Emily could be found. One evening, as I was trying to distract myself with an old philosophy book, I received a message. The sender was anonymous, the content bone-chilling. It was a photo of Emily. She looked terrified, her eyes wide and pleading, her usual vibrant self replaced with a portrait of fear. The text underneath simply read, "She shouldn't have ignored me." I immediately forwarded the message to the police. The hunt for Emily took a terrifying turn. The police traced the message, but it led to a burner phone that offered no clues. Campus was no longer a haven of academia, but a hunting ground for a twisted game of cat and mouse. Sleep became elusive, every passing day a grim reminder of my missing friend. One day, while deep in thought, I remembered an admirer Emily had once mentioned. She had brushed him off as an insignificant annoyance, a fellow student named Mark, who she said was a bit too clingy. I shared this information with the investigators. Mark was immediately brought in for questioning. His dorm room was searched, his phone records checked. In his room, they found a stack of photos, all of Emily, some taken from a distance, others surprisingly close. My blood turned cold as I recognized one of the photos. It was the same one I received the night Emily went missing. Mark was arrested and, under intense questioning, confessed to the crime. He admitted to abducting Emily out of a warped sense of love and revenge for being rejected. It was a chilling revelation that sent shockwaves throughout the college. Emily was found in an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of town, scared, but alive. The reunion was filled with tears of relief and the chilling realization of what had transpired. Mark was prosecuted and sentenced, paying for his disturbing obsession. In the aftermath, life slowly returned to its regular rhythm, but the horrifying memory remained. Emily and I, we moved past the fear, finding strength in each other. We finished our college years, not just as survivors, but fighters. The fall semester had just started at the university when I, a sophomore majoring in psychology, started my work-study job at the campus security office. In a small college town like ours, I expected my days to be filled with mundane tasks, but they quickly turned into a nightmare that still sends shivers down my spine. My first week went as expected, issuing parking tickets, checking IDs, helping with lockouts. However, things took a turn when a complaint was lodged about a break-in at the student dormitory. When I arrived with a couple of officers, we found a room ransacked, the personal belongings scattered everywhere, but nothing seemed to be stolen. We assumed it was just a prank gone too far and didn't think much of it. But then it happened again, and again. Different dorms, different buildings, but always the same story. Rooms left in a state of disarray, personal belongings disturbed but never taken. Campus security increased, but the incidents didn't stop. They became more frequent, and students became scared. The unsettling pattern felt like the lead-up to a horror movie. Despite the fear, life went on. Students went to classes during the day and locked their doors at night. I continued my routine, but with the added burden of investigating the break-ins. I questioned students, checked security footage, and started patrolling the dormitories at night. One night, during a late shift, I got a call about another break-in. This time, however, the student was still inside the room. My heart pounded in my chest as I rushed over. The student, a freshman named Emily, was terrified. She recounted waking up to find a man dressed in black standing in her room. As soon as she screamed, he fled. Emily was physically unharmed, but the psychological trauma was evident in her eyes. I combed through the security footage from that night and finally caught a glimpse of the intruder. The sight of him, dressed in all black with a mask obscuring his face, sent chills down my body. With the description and the footage, the local police became involved. We increased security measures, installing additional cameras and reinforcing locks on dormitory doors. The campus was on high alert, the atmosphere tense. Students were advised to be cautious and report any suspicious activity immediately. For days, we lived on edge, but the intruder seemed to have disappeared as suddenly as he had emerged. Just when we thought it was over, we received an anonymous tip. The tip led us to a secluded off-campus apartment. Inside, we found dozens of pictures and personal items taken from the various dorms, a chilling shrine dedicated to his victims. The police traced the lease of the apartment to a former university janitor who'd been fired a year earlier. When they apprehended him, he confessed to the break-ins, revealing his obsession with the students. It was a horrifying invasion of privacy, a traumatic experience for all the victims involved. The aftermath was a period of healing and tightening security measures. The incident reminded us all that horror doesn't always come in the form of ghosts or supernatural entities. Sometimes, it's the person you pass by every day, hidden behind the mask of normalcy. The university wasn't just a place of learning anymore. It was also the backdrop of a real-life horror story. The last lecture of the day always felt the longest. As I scribbled notes on quantum mechanics, I glanced at the clock. It was inching towards 8 p.m. Night classes were a necessary evil when you're a physics major, but they took a toll. The campus was usually deserted by this time, save for the few unfortunate souls like me. As I packed up my books and headed out, I felt the stillness of the campus settling around me like a shroud. The pathways were poorly lit, the old-fashioned lampposts casting eerie shadows across the cobblestones. Normally, I'd walk back to the dorm with my roommate Sarah, but she had taken the night off for a family event. I started my solo journey, my thoughts preoccupied with the theories I had learned. The silence was broken only by the sound of my footsteps echoing off the buildings. Halfway through my walk, I heard it, a shuffle behind me. I turned around, expecting to see a late-night straggler, but there was nobody. I shrugged it off as my imagination and walked on. But then I heard it again, a soft scuffle of feet on the cobblestones, too rhythmic to be a stray animal. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding in my chest. The dorms were just a few buildings away now. I could make it. I was almost at the entrance of my dormitory when I felt a gust of wind and a figure rushed past me, knocking me to the ground. Stunned, I looked up to see a tall, hooded figure looming over me. Panic surged through me as I realized there was no one around to help. "Give me your bag," the figure snarled. His voice was muffled, as if he was wearing a mask. The figure stepped closer, and in the dim light, I saw a glint of metal. A knife. I froze for a moment, then reacted. Kicking my leg up, I aimed for his knee. There was a grunt, the figure stumbled, and I seized the opportunity to scramble to my feet and run. I dashed into the dorm building, the security card I had clutched in my hand serving as my key to safety. I heard a thud behind me as the figure collided with the locked door. I didn't stop running until I was in my room, door bolted, phone in hand, dialing campus security. Campus security arrived shortly after my frantic call. They took my statement, examined the scene, and assured me they would do everything they could to apprehend the attacker. The university was put on high alert, and the news spread like wildfire. Everyone knew about the late-night attack. In the days that followed, a sinister unease hung over the campus. Students traveled in groups, night classes were rescheduled, and self-defense workshops became a common sight. Campus security ramped up their patrols, their usually relaxed demeanors replaced with steely determination. But despite these efforts, the attacker struck again. 3 more students were assaulted within the week. Each attack was eerily similar, a solitary student targeted on a lonely path late in the evening. Fear grew among students and staff alike. Parents called, demanding answers, terrified for their children's safety. A sense of relief washed over the campus when, 8 days after my attack, campus security apprehended a suspect. He was a student, not much older than the rest of us, but his demeanor was anything but ordinary. His eyes were cold, vacant even, and he wore an unsettling smirk as he was led away by the officers. News of his capture spread fast, igniting a collective sigh of relief across the campus. But for me, and the other victims, relief was mixed with a chilling realization. Our attacker was not an outsider. He was one of us, a fellow student. He sat in the same lecture halls, walked the same paths, and ate in the same cafeteria. The following days were a blur of police interviews and counseling sessions. There was talk about trauma, about healing and moving on. I was dubbed a survivor, but the word felt hollow. I had survived, yes, but I felt far from victorious. The horror was over, the attacker caught, but the aftermath of his terror still lingered. How do you move on from a nightmare when every corner of your world reminds you of it? I was about to find out, because even in the darkest shadows of this horror, there were lessons to be learned, strength to be found, and a resilience I didn't know I possessed. Thanks for watching.